Hello, this video is about my experience of being single, really, from the age of 30 onwards. Maybe I should start in the 20s, maybe, you know, because I've been single all my life. I've never lived with a man, never been married. The odd date, here and there. Um, Men have never had much of an interest in me. It's always men tend to look and then walk away. And I remember that from, my first dance, going to Jewish dances and that. I very rarely got asked to dance. They didn't know. Men have never been interested in me. The only way they've been interested in me is perhaps to rape me, or sexually assault me, or something predatory, anything like that. Then men are interested. But I can't really remember men asking me out. I've never had men asking me out. Never. I can't even remember. Men don't any interest. They might invite themselves out and say, "Can I come and see you?" And I'm thinking, well, that is an invitation I'm not interested in, because I think a man should ask you out of your home, not invite himself round. Because he's obviously looking for sex. It's too intimate. They should be inviting you out. So I don't know, when you're in your 20s and things, you're that age, you have friends, other girls who are single, and you're going out to clubs and things, and obviously you're looking for a fella, and you go out, you get invited to marrieds. The marrieds invite you as a single person to the home, and that's okay, because at that age I wasn't really interested in marriage or settling down or anything. And it's quite comfortable, and you're just like a single person, and you're just going. And I felt quite comfortable going to families, for meals and things like that, because I wasn't interested in marriage or family. But things get harder once you get past 30, for me anyway, my experience. At that time, I was a staunch evangelical Christian. I am Jewish. I was a evangelical Christian for 42 years, from the age of 18. A slight breakaway, but it's 42 years, or in altogether. But after 30, it gets very difficult, because what happens is women by then are settling down. They found either a husband, or they're living with somebody, or they find out they're gay. Because whether they're going to get involved with a man or a woman, people are settling down in relationships. And I found it started to feel a bit uncomfortable, and difficult, particularly in a church thing, once you get to middle 30s. I was never asked out or had any interest from any man at any church or anything like that, or anything. Men just not interested. I would say I was attractive. Obviously, I'm 60 now, so I'm not as attractive as I was when I was 35, but I was attractive and dressed modern and stylish and everything. Look at photographs and see I was attractive, but men never took much interest in me. Not as never asked out, anything like that, ever, anywhere, ever. Um, and, and then I started late 30s, thinking it would be nice to perhaps settle down. As a sort of a late developer, maybe thinking maybe it would be nice. And I had my eye on this guy, a Jewish believer, and thinking, yes, he's perhaps the sort of man I'd like to marry and things. But he got cold feet, as you know. But it never went anywhere, really, nothing. It's, you're trying to start it off as a friendship, and then, but this guy was a few years older than me and was a confirmed bachelor. He's not married. He's probably 65 now, and although at the time, I mean, when I knew him from time to time, he was a very handsome, eligible bachelor, and he was lots of women interested in him in the church, but he was obviously a confirmed bachelor. So in my late 30s, there was an interest, middle 30s, late, of settling down, of having children. I was thinking, well, perhaps this would be nice. And I remember thinking, this is the kind of man I'd perhaps like to settle down with, although I'm glad I didn't marry him. Because I think it would have been a lonely marriage on my part, because he was too insular and didn't share himself to perhaps not the person he would hide away, hide everything, and so you'd end up being a bit lonely, because there's nothing worse than a lonely marriage. I found it more difficult going to people's homes than marrieds' homes, because you're beginning to see what you haven't got and what you would like. So you're seeing family life, and as opposed to the teens and 20s when you see it, but you think, I don't really want that, I'm not interested, I'm happy being single. Now you're thinking, you're seeing friends, female friends with a husband, and you see they love one another, you see the family life, and it started to feel very painful, because I'm seeing what I would like. You're seeing what you want, and of course you're not having it, and nobody's interested, and you can't meet anybody, and it's just not happening for you. So then I found I didn't like going to the marriages, and of course the way it is in churches, as a single person, you're getting so many invitations for lunch, because this is the culture of, we must look after the single people. And what the way it works is the marrieds, right, invite the single people for lunches and things. And then I started trying to get out of it, like, oh, I'm busy, I can't make it. And the reason why I didn't want to go was I felt uncomfortable and sad, because I'd come home and I'd feel very depressed and lonely, because I'd spent time in an environment and I could see there was so much there that I wanted and that wasn't available to me, because I didn't have anybody. I was on my own. And this is, I don't think anybody picked up on that. They just don't get it. They don't particularly, they don't realise how hard it is when you get older as a single person, that they think they're doing you a favour. You see, the only reason marrieds and couples and families invite you to their homes because they feel sorry for you. That is the only reason. They're not inviting you because they like you. They're not inviting you because they enjoy your company. They're inviting you basically because they feel sorry for you, and they feel it's their duty. It's their Lord. They feel compelled by the Lord. They feel led by the Lord. They feel the Lord has spoken to them. They must invite this single person on their own for a meal. Sunday lunch and this and that, the other, and it's awful. And I never got the feeling that I was invited because we genuinely had things in common and enjoyed each other's company. It was a case of charity. It was Christian charity, but done with the best of intentions. It is done with the best of intentions. People do mean well. And of course, they are relating to you as a person with a problem. They see you as the unmarried, the single person. They're nice and cosy in their invariably middle class home with their professional husband. That the wife is married, she's got the status of a husband, are being valued, and she's a mother, and she's got the children. And within the churches, it's like, you are somebody if you're married and have children, because that is your calling, to bring up your children, and it's the work of the Lord to bring up your children. It's a godly duty, and your husband is professional and he's got status, and you have status in the community. And these women are very, very confident, they're self-assured. Many of them have been to university. Some of them might have jobs as well, so they're professional, and they have their husband, they have their nice house, they have the children, they're part of the religious community, they're part of the wider community, and they're very self-satisfied and smug and secure because they're having everything. They are seen to be valued in this world because they have a husband. They are valued and appreciated. They have a sex life. And of course, me as a single person, I don't have a sex life. They know you're a committed Christian. Obviously, you're not having sex. You're single. You don't have a man. You're not loved by anybody. No man has shown an interest in you enough to ask you to marry him or anything. You have no boyfriend. And so you are on the shelf, and their job is to take you and to dust you and to invite you to the family table and make you feel valued and so on. And they tend to relate to you as a problem. They do tend to see their job as like counselling you. And people tend to get very, very personal when they invite you to the home as a single person. It's not like when marrieds invite other couples to the home. They will talk about their children, they'll talk about work and the things they have in common. There's also the married banter. You get a lot with couples in home groups. If you get a number of married couples in home groups, you get the married banter. They're all complaining about each other to each other, but it's all good-natured banter, like, oh, Chrissy's terrible. I wish he would get up in the morning and make me a cup of tea, but he won't. I have to make the cup of tea, and everybody laughs. Yes, my husband's the same. I have to make him a cup of tea. You won't make me a cup of tea, will you, darling? No, he doesn't. And there's all this married banter. If you're sitting there, the lone single person, you cannot contribute to the conversation. I remember the most awful experience of being in a room with four couples, four married couples, me sitting there. Nobody else had arrived, and it went on, this married banter. I couldn't contribute this towards the conversation because they're married. There's nothing I can share. I don't know about. I have. I'm not in that experience. And they're very smug and self-satisfied, and they love it, and they're all cosy, and they're both all singles, and they're talking about the married life, and and appearing to be unhappy, but they're all very happy and smug, and you're just sitting there. You cannot contribute to this conversation. There is nothing you contribute because you're all alone there, the single person. And it was so bad. I was so uncomfortable. As I got up and I said, I'm going to the host. It was very uncomfortable. She was a very nice lady. And I said, I just don't feel comfortable here. It's like, I don't know if she picked up or realised that the reason I was leaving is because they're all talking about something that I cannot get involved in. I am not married. I don't have a boyfriend. I cannot contribute to this bantering that's going on between them. And you get a lot of this within couples, and this is where it gets so difficult. So I went home. Of course, then she's feeling so bad, and then I suppose the rest of the people feel so bad, but they won't know because the young couples, they've no idea. They're so comfortable and warm and cosy, and they've all got each other, and they're all married and comfortable, and they can all share each other's things, and you're there sitting alone in your late 30s, and it's awful, and you feel so alone, and it's terrible. I remember seeing at this particular Bible study group a woman, and she was about 45, typical spinster, and the host had made, it was a birthday, and she'd made a birthday cake. It was very sweet of her. She was a lovely person. She'd made a birthday cake, and she lit the birthday cake, and she was trying to get people to sing happy birthday to this lone spinster of 45. Nobody in the room was interested, and they all just went along because they were supposed to. And I could see it. Of course, the spinster of 45 didn't realise that people weren't interested. She was so pleased to see this cake with the candles, and they were just like singing happy birthday. Nobody was interested. Nobody said to her, what did you get for your birthday, or what does it feel like to be 45? Nobody was interested in this lone spinster. And I felt, but she didn't know. She wasn't picking up. And I thought, oh, isn't this so sad? Nobody's interested in her. Nobody's interested. She's all alone, and you've got all these single people, or the marrieds there. You've got either the young singles of 19, 22, or you've got the married couples, and nobody's interested. Nobody's, a lone 45-year-old, and it felt so lonely. But she didn't feel that. She wasn't picking it up, but I could feel it. I felt it for her, and I thought, this is what it's like when you're getting older in the church, And it was a lovely gesture to make this cake, but the problem was these people weren't really interested in it, and they weren't involved in it. I just felt very, very sad. And in the end, I couldn't cope with this going to married homes. So I made the decision never to go to married homes again. I don't want to be invited to married couples' homes, to anybody's couples' homes. I will not go there. And I decided to stop going to church because I didn't really like Christianity, but I still had my faith, believing that Jesus was the Messiah. But, I think this is one of the reasons why I don't want to get into religious communities. I'm Jewish now, I'm 60. But what puts me off, why I don't want to get involved in religious life, I'm being honest here, is because I'm single and I'm older. Because what happens in religious communities, in the most well-meaning ways, people feel sorry for you and they invite you to your home. because they feel they must offer hospitality. You're on your own, you're a single person. But that is too painful to me. It is too painful to me to be in a synagogue or in a church where I'm seeing families, where I'm seeing husbands being affectionate to their wives and seeing the children and this, that, the other, and you're on your own. It's too painful. I can't cope with the pain. I cannot cope with the pain, so I stay away. I am not 20 now. I am now 60. I'll be 61 this year, and I'm thinking, I can't cope with being in that environment because I'm seeing what I don't have. I'm seeing what I'll never have, right? And people are inviting you home for the best will in the world, but simply because they feel sorry for you, because you're on your own, and you've just been constantly reminded by being with them what you lack, and you seeing all the children running around. I'm not used to children. This is again another problem because it's getting used to being with little children. Again, it's difficult because if you're a single person and you haven't had much contact with children, it's very, very difficult. Some marriages are sympathetic and they pick up on it and they're very sympathetic and they realise you're not used to children. Then another problem is when I was in my 20s and teens, you would have couples, and what so often happened in my 20s was the partners. I would have female friends, and the partners would be hitting on me. I can't tell you how many male partners of female friends would be hitting with me onto me as soon as the wife or the partner or the girlfriend was out of the room. They'd be making a move on me, and that was awful to experience because it was always a friend. It's a friend, and the husband's making a move on me when she goes to the toilet or when she goes to the kitchen. Then the problem is when you're getting older into your 30s is that the woman, what can happen, another problem as you get older, and because I look younger than my age, and I suppose I've managed to look rather youthful. So in my 40s, I was looking rather youthful. Another problem I encountered was that women, married women, or living together with a man, are terrified of you. Now, the reason why is not because I'm a sexual threat. I've realised this because women pick up. I'm not sexually available, and women can pick that up. They can see I'm not promiscuous, I'm not flirty, I'm not like that. I don't behave like that, and women quickly pick up that I'm not like that. But what I am a threat to for any woman who has a man, whether it be a boyfriend or a partner or living together or a husband, is I am an emotional threat. And this is a new thing I discovered in my late 40s, right, is men have said to me when they've wanted to do favours for me because I'm chronically sick, they say, I would like to help you, but my wife or my partner will not let me because they get so jealous. I remember inviting a neighbour offered to do a favour for me. Guess what? He had to bring his wife, and his wife sat there looking at him, looking at me, looking at him, looking at me, during the whole time he was there doing me a favour in my home, doing some repair. And she was worried that he was interested in me, and she was sitting there watching us backwards and forward. And I felt like saying, I am not interested in your partner. I am so not interested. And he wasn't interested in me. And they were two peas in a pod. He was not my type. I mean, it was obvious those two were very suitable for each other. But the women are so insecure and they're so frightened that you become... So in my 40s, late 40s, I'm becoming an emotional threat. And even now at 60, I can be an emotional threat to a couple because a man in all innocence and in good, simple good nature might say to his wife or partner, so-and-so needs some help and I can help her. She's not well. She's living on her own. It must be very difficult. She's chronically sick. She hasn't got anybody. I can help her. But wives and partners won't let the husband or partner help me, somebody like me, because I pose a threat. I'm not a sexual threat, I'm an emotional threat. And really an emotional threat for a woman is far more dangerous than a sexual threat, because we're talking about affection, and growing fond of a woman. So it's very, very alienating. And On one hand, I think I would like to be part of the Jewish community, but the problem is, like all religious communities, I know I can't be comfortable in that community because I'm 60 now and I'm single. And this is the problem. This is the problem for me. And that's why I don't get involved, because it's too painful. Because I'm chronically sick. I'm not well enough to be getting involved or making a shidduch or getting involved with a man anyway, because I'm not well. I spend 16 hours more in bed in a blacked out room with severe ME. I'm there because I feel very ill. I am very, very weak. I am ill, I'm chronically sick, and there's no way, and it would be most unfair to try and seek to date a man or get involved with any man while I'm in this condition, and I've been in this condition for 22 years. Now, I do know, and I've seen it in the media, of women who have been diagnosed with cancer, and they know they have a year to live. The single young women, do you know what they do? Some of them, they go out, they find a man, they get the teeth into him, they get the hooks into him, they move in, they live together, he's mad and crazy about her. A year later she dies, and then he's doing videos and he's doing interviews with magazines saying it was the best year of his life being with her. She knows she's going to die in a year, and so she gets involved with a man, emotionally involved with a man, and she's having a great time for the last year of her life with this man who's deeply in love with her. She dies, and he's left grieving. He's left a widow. He's left on his own after a year. I mean, I personally think that's very selfish of the woman to do that. I would not do that. And although I'm chronically sick, I wouldn't want to impose myself on a man. I wouldn't want to put a man through watching me being so unwell, because that's what I am all the time. To see somebody permanently sick, permanently weak, so much of the day, so unwell, I wouldn't want to do it. I feel it's totally and completely selfish. I went on Match.com about 5 years ago, and I genuinely thought maybe, because I have got worse since then. I thought maybe it would be nice to meet somebody. Maybe it would be nice to meet somebody. I was inundated with widowers with children, inundated. And what I quickly realised was, because I wasn't emphasising my illness, because obviously, you don't want to just talk about your illness. I do have hobbies and interests. So it wasn't that I was lying or being deceitful, but I didn't want to make a big to-do about me being chronically sick. So I was trying to underplay it a bit and just talk about my hobbies and interests. What I found was I got all these married men, all these widowers, right? Men in the late 30s, 40s, with children. And I suddenly realised what they wanted. These were men who had children, and they were looking for somebody exactly like me. Remember, I didn't look my age. I looked 10 years younger. So I look about 45. I was about 55. They obviously don't know much about this ME, so they're thinking, well, she's not very strong, but she can stay at home, she can look after the children, sort the house out, I've got a job, and maybe this could work, and she looks quite attractive, and maybe this could work for both of us. And I got a new mother, she's obviously not going to want more children, and to be honest, if I'd been well enough, it could have worked. But I suddenly realised this cannot work, because I suddenly realised I can't be bringing up another man's children. I'm not well enough. I am struggling to cope looking after myself, and that's with great difficulty. I often cannot shower when I need to. I often cannot go to the toilet when I need to because I'm feeling so ill. I'm lying in bed feeling dreadful. I'm in such a bad way. And this is normal, and this is this is how I am every day. So I realise this is ridiculous. I can't impose this on any man. This is, and then there were one or two bachelors, older bachelors, but then I remember one bachelor, and it wasn't smutty, the letter, but he obviously knew his needs, and I got a very detailed email about his sexual needs as well. Now, it wasn't a smutty email, it wasn't perverse or sick, or you would. It wasn't. He was a man in his 40s, single, very handsome. You would think, well, what's he doing on Match.com? But it's about finding the right person. He sounded very, very nice, and he said, he knew what his needs were. He said, I'm looking for a woman who can be affectionate and kind. I want a woman who tells me every day before I go to work that she loves me. And then he was going into the physical business. That really embarrassed me, but it wasn't smutty. It's just that I'm a single woman and I'm not used to men, and I'm not used to being told in an email what they would like in terms of their specifications of what they would like sexually. And I was very embarrassed by this, but it wasn't smutty, it wasn't crude. He was just being very honest and open as a mature man, laying his cards out to a mature woman. This is my needs, and I do need this, and I'm looking for a woman who is willing. And I suddenly realised, well, this isn't going to work out either, because I'm not well. What if I can't do all this as in when he wants? Because these men have sexual needs which I can't necessarily meet as and when they want. Talk about a man wants me to go on top of him. Can I physically do that? I don't know, because I struggle turning in bed. I'm being quite serious about this. Quite serious. And people with severe illness, different illnesses, not just with ME, will know. To just turn in bed is like, oh, I'm worn out. I've just turned in bed and I'm wiped out. Or you turn halfway and you're stuck. You can't move properly. And you're thinking, how would I find a man who would be willing to even cope with that? Then you're looking, and we're living in such a sexualized age where people now are wanting this in bed, they're wanting that in bed, they want you to do this, that, the other in bed to them. And I'm thinking, really, when I go to bed, I just want my hot water bottle. That's all I want. And really all I would want from a man, if I'm honest, is a cuddle. I just want a cuddle. But you see then you see you've got different needs. I like the idea of everything in bed, but I'm not physically able to because I'm chronically sick. So in my mind, I'd like to be able to do this, that, the other, but I can't do it. I can't physically do it. And the kind of world we live in, which is so sexualized, and everything is supposed to be from the beginning, and he wants you to do this and that, the other, and if you don't do it, he's going to find somebody else anyway. And the thing is, as an emancipated, continuously single woman, I am not desperate for a man, because I know there are so many single women having to perform for their man and to do things in bed. They don't want to do it, but they're doing it because they're terrified of losing him. Now, this is where I feel free as a single woman. This is where my freedom is as a single woman, because I won't do anything for anybody to a man in bed that I don't want to do. This is my freedom, and this is the freedom as I have as a spinster, as a continuous single woman. I have the freedom not to have to do to a man something that is abhorrent, that is disgusting, that is painful, that is horrible. And I'm doing it because I'm terrified of being alone. Because there are millions of women who are doing things to please their man because they're frightened of being alone. They're frightened. They're terrified. They don't want to lose him. And you think, how can you be free when you're having to do certain things that you are abhorrent to you, that are repellent to you, that are painful to you? And you're having to do this to keep him satisfied. I won't do it. I won't do it. Another thing, I don't believe many men have the capacity to be faithful. I don't believe many men are faithful to their wives. I think the majority of men do play away. And this is, I am not downing men. I am not attacking men. But I think it's unrealistic to expect any man to be faithful to any woman. I don't believe that fidelity is happens very often. I think there are very few men that are faithful to their wives. And I think most decent, nice men, they love their wives, but I think a lot of them do play away. If they get the opportunity, they take it. And it doesn't mean they don't love their wives. It doesn't mean the horrible men. It doesn't mean any of that. It means men think differently about sex. And men, for them, it's like physical relief. And they don't feel it's such a big deal. And women don't feel that way generally about sex. For them, it's a big thing. They feel it's if a man has sex with a woman, it means that he doesn't love her, he doesn't value her, he doesn't respect her. And to be honest, most men, if you were to say that to them, would say that is rubbish. I do value, I do love you, and I do respect you. Don't you understand? This is just a bit of playtime. It means nothing to me, and you mean everything to me, but I like a little bit of playtime. Also, there's the aspect of sexual satisfaction, because if a woman isn't going to do certain things in the bedroom, men will either go to a prostitute or they'll find a woman who is able to do it. And this is a fact, and this is why there will always be prostitutes, because there will be always women who cannot perform because they're like me, they're unwell, they're ill, they perhaps physically can't do it, they're too ill to do it, they don't want to do certain things in the bedroom. They're physically unable to do certain things in the bedroom. And so a man then says, I still love my wife, but I have these sexual needs. So he goes to a prostitute, or he finds a woman where they come to an arrangement. And this is another thing I don't want, because I would rather be single and alone than have a man who is unfaithful to me. And I don't believe men have the capacity as a species to be faithful to a woman. I think very few men are faithful to the women. I think there are very, very, very few. But you'll never know the truth, because no man is going to admit to it. And even in the church, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I've seen enough and experienced enough, and I've been propositioned enough by men of the cloth, ministers, Christian ministers, open to nookie. I could have had it. I could have had it. I can think of, I don't be naming denominations, because it's not about denominations. It's about, I remember this particular minister, he had a lovely wife. She adored him. But I think deep down she knew what he was like. I think she knew, but she loved him. She was madly, truly, and deeply in love with him. And they had a young baby. But he was the sort, he was the sort, and he was looking for it, and he was open to it, and if he's made it quite clear he was looking for it and wanting it. And to be honest, I could have had it with him. He was very, very attractive. He's not been faithful to his wife. He won't have been faithful to his wife. I looked on Google and I saw him, like decades later. And I'm looking at him thinking, there's no way you've been faithful to your wife, because you were up for it with me. You were looking for it with me. He was making eyes at me quite, across the church, as some do or something. He was really up for it. And people justify it. This is where the other problems, you see, and this is where it gets difficult. But I would love to have the affection. Well, you see, what I would love is the affection and tenderness and gentleness of a man. I would like a man for going out for the day for a walk by the seaside, because I'm not well to be driven, and to take a little walk along the prom, and to sit down and to share a bag of chips and have a cup of tea. That to me would be bliss. That would be to me bliss. That would be so nice. To go to the Lake District, to go to the country, to be taken out for a drive. Just the simple things. I sound like an old age pensioner, don't I? But that to me means more than anything, as well as a bit sex, as and when, if it's possible. How, I don't know. But then you would have to find somebody who would be willing to accommodate. Well, this is where we're talking about true love. You see, if you marry when you're young, the idea is you marry, you find somebody, and the idea is you want it to last forever, don't you? This is what people are craving. Even if you're in a homosexual relationship, you want it for your old age. You want somebody to be faithful. You want somebody there when you get to your 50s and 60s, when you're not well, when you're poorly, when you can't perform this, that, the other in bed. But you want somebody who loves you so deeply that you're there and you're not well and it doesn't matter, and the bond is so deep, and it's not such a big deal that they have to have sex every night, because the relationship is so deep and it's so caring. And this is what people want. But are you going to find that if you are initially going out there in the playground as a single woman of 60, 61, looking for somebody who is going to be willing to accommodate to that? And we live in such a sexual age, and you're thinking, well, is with expectations that he's going to expect this and that the other, and if I can't perform that, he's going to go elsewhere. And that's another thing. And everything is so speeded up. This is another problem with this age that we're living in, is I would like it to go back to the last century. I would like to be courted. I would like a man to take me out properly, to take me out for a drive, to spend company. I don't want his hands all over my body on the first day, or the second day, or the third day. I don't mind if he puts his arms around me. I don't necessarily want him smothering me with kisses on the first or second or third day. I don't want that. I would not, on a blind date, greet a man with a kiss. You know these dating programs where you meet somebody and you kiss on the cheek? No way am I going to meet a blind date and kiss him on the cheek. I won't go there. I won't do it. Because for me, it's too intimate too quickly. It's too intimate too quickly. And I want to go back to the times of Jane Austen, where a man says, it's like going, can we go out for a walk? So going out for a walk these days will be, can we go out to the local park and take a walk? Can we go out for a drive somewhere, walk by the sea, go for a country walk? That's what I would like. And then to go for a cup of tea, or, have a drink and then be dropped off and to be kissed on the cheek. I don't want him inviting him in for coffee or walking me to my door even, not nowadays, because I'm looking to be invited in for coffee. In other words, what I'm looking for is old-fashioned, traditional, last century dating. But this is not the world we live in. So you won't be able to get that. I mean, people would just laugh at it. But how many people are there like me who would like what I would like? And it's too fast moving. It's too fast moving. Everything is moving too quickly. And because what's happening is it's all physical, it's all hands, it's all over the body. And then you go into bed, and within 2 or 3 weeks, you find out there's nothing there. And you haven't got anything, and it's over. And I don't want that. I don't want that. I want everything in slow motion. And it's a different world, isn't it? And the world as it is doesn't offer that. And also another problem is people ask so much, are so open at talking things about sexually, even if they don't know you, like which I've already intimated, like this man, very nice man, middle-aged man, telling me his requirements. I mean, this is a total stranger sending me the email. It wasn't perverse, it wasn't sick, it wasn't crude, but this is the age we're living in, and by the second or third day I might be having a man asking me questions of a very personal nature. This is another thing I don't like this modern age, is this people get too intimate too quickly, and even friends do it. You get to know somebody, they're asking very personal questions. You get this as a single woman being you're invited as a single woman to married people's homes, and they start asking you things like, why aren't you married? There's a married couple sitting at the dinner table and they'll ask, why haven't you got married, or why are you single, or wouldn't you like to get married, or don't you get lonely living on your own? It's awful. I don't ask them as a married couple, what do you like about being married, or have you ever thought of getting divorced, or what don't you like about being married? I mean, I don't go there with these kinds of personal questions, but couples and people generally think they have the right to be very intrusive with single people and ask them any question they like. They think they have the right to ask anything. I get workmen coming into my home to fix the toilet, and they'll ask me, do you live alone? Are you married? Why aren't you married? Would you like to get married? And I have learnt after years of this, I now say to these people, I am a private person, I don't talk about myself, and that shuts them all up. I get taxi drivers asking me, are you married? Do you live alone? Do you have a boyfriend? And and they're just taking me home in a taxi. I'm always being asked that. And I hate it. I hate this intrusion of inappropriate personal questioning. And women do it in female pressure in relationships. They are so crude and talking about sex with each other in a very detailed way and exchanging all the intimacies of their sexual activities with their boyfriends and their partners. And I'm thinking, this is awful, this is disgusting, there is no need for this. And they're laughing and they're joking, and it's all very crude. And this is another reason, so I don't have female friends, because so many females are like this. They're vulgar, they get crude, they swear, they are revealing all their flesh, they're telling each other all their sexual business and going into details about the sexual act and what they did and what they didn't do and what they like and what they don't like in the bedroom. And it's awful, I can't bear it. And I don't want to socialise with these kinds of women. They are lovely women, and they don't want to socialise with me, because obviously they realise I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to talk about things I've ever done in the bedroom or might have wanted to do in the bedroom with any man. And I feel out of sync in this world. I don't feel I don't feel comfortable in this sexualized age, and yet I have the longing, and I think it would be so lovely to meet somebody and to go very gently, just dating, and just slow and slow and slow, and an affection to develop, and a tenderness to develop, and more affection, and that somebody cares about you, and you like each other. And this is what millions of people are craving, this kind of intimacy. But how can you get this intimacy when you're going straight in there, fucking, giving oral sex on the first date, and give me a blowjob on the second date, and videos on how to do it. I don't think I could do it. I suffer from severe ME, chronic fatigue. There is no way I could do what these videos are instructing women to do, perhaps to other women or other men. You go, I can't do it. It hurts. I'm in pain. I can't do it. My tongue will not go the way it's supposed to do. Because I have severe chronic fatigue, it affects every single part of my body. Every part. When I go to the dentist, I'm in so much pain opening my mouth and keeping it open. I am in so much pain. How am I going to do that? There's no way I could do anything like that with a man. I don't have the strength to do it. I don't have the strength to do any of those activities. So it means deprived of physical love. No man is going to want to get to know me because I can't do that, because I don't have the physical strength in my body to do it. I can't do that because my tongue is so weak, because I am ill, and there's no way I can do it. So there is no hope for people like us. And how awful it is if you're younger and you're in this physical condition, if you're 40, if you're 35. And what will happen? Your man will go to somebody else, and you're thinking how miserable this is, and how human personal relationships really are potentially fraught with emotional problems, in that if you can't meet the needs of people in this way, they are going to go somewhere else to get it. If you can't satisfy a man with the blowjob or with the hand job, because because of your illness, he's going to go to a prostitute or he's going to find somebody else. But this is the reality of the world we live in, and it will get worse. And he's going to be sitting at home watching porn, and women are having to put up with this, and they know it, but they're so frightened of being alone that they put up with all of this. So I feel as a woman I'm really free. I might get very lonely for affection and tenderness and to give affection and tenderness to a man, but I am free as a woman because I don't have to do that blowjob, which I can't do anyway, and he's going to become dissatisfied, he's going to go elsewhere, and I'm going to be hanging on to him for dear life because I'm frightened of being alone. I'm frightened of being dumped. Because this is what it amounts to for people when you listen to them, and you can hearing it from people. They're frightened of being alone. And this is the thing about being single. And so if you can find a way of coping with being single, because it's not all contentment, because you go through phases as a single person, you go through phases of contentment and you're happy on your own, and then you go through phases where you want intimacy and you want closeness, but I suppose maybe selfishly you want it on your terms, and then you're quite happy again, you're contented being on your own again, and it's very, very difficult. And I don't think there is a magic answer, and I think whether you're with somebody or if you're permanently single, you both have got problems. There's the marital state and the single state, you can't say one is better than the other. They are both have their pluses and they both have the minuses, right? And of course, the marrieds won't tell you that. The marrieds aren't going to tell you, and those in a relationship, that they have the worry and the constant anxiety. Is their partner being faithful to them? There's no point asking them because they're always going to say yes. So you have that uncertainty. You always have that uncertainty. Am I pleasing this person enough in the bedroom? Are they watching porn secretly? Are they doing this? So you have that permanent insecurity, and you're permanently having to live in trust, but you don't really trust them, but you don't want to admit it to yourself, and you're frightened of losing them. But then you have the person who's single, who has periods of contentment, and they're very happy being single. They don't want it to change, but they have times when they want to be physically close to somebody and they want the intimacy of a relationship, but then they don't want other things. And so what I'm saying is here, there is no perfect solution. There's no magic solution. And you have to decide, what is best for me? Am I 80% of the time happiest when I'm single, or am I happiest most of the time when I'm in a relationship and I've got a partner? Of course, I've never had the relationship, the long dating and things. I had a boyfriend when I was 54, but when I was 15, but that I was only hanging on to it because I was frightened of losing him, because I wanted a boyfriend. It was very important. You've got to have a boyfriend at 15, and I was clinging on to him today life because I wanted a boyfriend. That was the only reason. That is the time I had. So I'm not used to dating. I'm not used to having a boyfriend. So I'm used to being on my own. And most of the time I'm quite content. But I go through these little phases when I think, wouldn't it be lovely to meet somebody? Wouldn't it be nice? But then I don't want to marry anybody. I don't want to live with anybody. I suppose I want things on my terms. I want to live the single life, but I want somebody somewhere where we are giving and receiving affection, and we're having a sexual relationship, and they are faithful to me and I'm faithful to them, but somehow I'm able to remain single at the same time. And it's all very bizarre, and but you have to ask yourself, which state are you the most happiest in most of the time? Because married people, so there are some marrieds that envy the single people and say, oh, you've got it all. But I would say to you, if you're married, you have to ask yourself, how much of your time being married are you basically quite happy being married? right? And most people would say, well, to be honest, most of the time, I sometimes think it would be nice to be single, but most of the time I do like being married. I like having the chill. I like married life, but sometimes I think it'd be nice to be single. And I would say to you, then stay married. It's only when you reach the point where you are really, really, really unhappy being married most of the time. If you are 80% of the time unhappy being married, then you possibly are better being single. But if you are 80% of the time happy being married, and it's right really, it's got problems, but it's all right really, but most of the time, stay married. And I've always found this percentage business very, very helpful. And I would say probably 80% of the time, I would say 80% now, I am happy being single. But I've got this very hard percentage of 20% at the moment that thinks I would love to be giving and receiving affection and to be having some intimacy. But it's only 20%, you see. And then I think, do I want to give up 80% for 20%? And I think I'd possibly miss living on my own. That's another thing, you see. So this is where it's juggling, and you have to decide what is best for you. You can't actually have it all. And it's so I think both states have their pluses and they have their minuses, and you have to look at it from a percentage point of view. Where am I most happiest? And there is no perfect state. You can't look to be 100% happy being single or 100% being happy married or in a relationship, because both states have their problems, different problems, and that is normal. That is normal. That is normal. When you're single, you can go out and about, you can come and go as you please, and that's great. But that's great until you have chest pains and you're admitted into hospital as an emergency, and you have nobody to ring and nobody's going to come and see how you are. That's the difference. And that's happened to me. You're admitted to hospital 999 with chest pains and you have nobody to visit you. Because you're on your own, you're single. Right. That is the downside of being single. Right? Of course, if you're in a relationship, you're living together, you're married, you have a study, whatever, then the first thing you do is they're going to be there for you. That is the difference. You can't have it all. You can't have it all. But you can get used to it. I mean, I've had emergency admissions a few times now with chest pains, and I'm now used to it. I just accept it. And I'm on my own. I had a coronary angiogram a few weeks ago. I was on my own, and I think they were surprised. Nobody came with me to the hospital. Nobody visited me. Nobody rang. I was there for the day. But I was all right. I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't lonely. I wasn't feeling sad or depressed. I was quite happy. I felt very peaceful. I felt very calm. And I was so happy to still be alive after the procedure. I hadn't had a stroke. I hadn't had a heart attack from the procedure. I was still alive, and everything. And I was quite happy. I'd had a very nice day at the hospital, and I got a taxi, and I got wheeled to the thing, and I got home, and I just managed to. I was coping. I just coped. But it is hard. But you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. But I think the hardest thing at the moment is I would love to be involved in the Jewish community, but what is preventing me is because religion is about, it's just the way society works. It is about families. And I find as an older person now at 60, it's hard and it's painful when you're in that environment of families and you're hankering and you're seeing it and you're seeing a man showing love and I just find it very, very hard. I know in religious communities there will be divorced women. There are a lot of divorced women with families and things, but I still find it hard because even then they have the children. They have that intimacy and everything. And you go to the homes and it's still the children, and they have the relatives around, and I don't have any family. You know, my all my family died, you know, I was very young. I don't have, you know, nothing. So I have nothing. And that's been a problem all my life, is losing my parents at a very young age. And again, that has always been a problem, not having parents. And then, of course, you've got dealing with not having parents, right? And then you're dealing with not having parents, and then not having a boyfriend, and not having a partner, and not being married, and just being on your own all the time. But I do know, like in churches, there are some single women, and they're used to it. They don't seem bothered by it, but you never really know, because Christians don't, you never, they never really tell you what they're really thinking, because the very nature of the religion and religious beliefs gets you to hide and conceal so much, because nobody wants to reveal who they really are, what they're really feeling, because the shame, there's embarrassment, the feelings that they are letting God down, that they're being sinful, that they are not responding to the situation in a Christ-like way. You can't say certain things within the church. You can't say within a culture, Christian culture, I am a single woman, I'm craving for a man, I'm craving for physical intimacy. It's like, Christ is all you need. Christ is all you need. And you know the people who say it, they're married. It's all right, you can say that, you've got a husband. You're getting sex every Sunday morning, and you come into evening service with a smile on your face. This is what's... And they don't realise it. They don't mean any harm. But you think you don't really know. You've no idea. You haven't got a clue. And then they just come out with these pop phrases. Jesus is enough for you. Jesus can satisfy you. He cannot give me a sexual orgasm. He can't give me a sexual orgasm. He can't give you a sexual orgasm. He can give you peace. You can get peace. But then it's what you believe can give you peace. I'm not saying Jesus gives you peace. I believe God can give you peace. But it's about what you believe. If you believe Jesus can give you peace, then this belief can give you peace. But then maybe a piece of toast can give you peace if you focus on a piece of toast. Or focusing on clouds can give you peace. If you focus on clouds, you know, you can start feeling more peaceful. So it's all about what's going on in your mind, about what's giving you peace. And I am a physical being, and I think, wouldn't it be so lovely to experience the physical, the tenderness of being stroked and touched. The only time I ever get touched at my hair is when I go to the hairdressers. Well, I don't go to the hairdressers anymore because I'm trying to save the money, so I cut it myself. That is the only time I get touched. The only time I get touched is when my cardiologist will touch under my breast, because he has to hold the thingamajig to do a heart scan, right? So his hand is on top of the thing, but obviously his fingers are touching my flesh, because that can't be helped. That is the only time a man is touching me, when he does that procedure, right? That is the only time. That is the only time the last time I got touched by a human being was a few weeks ago, when he had to do this scan, and his fingers were there. I was so aware of the fingers on my body touching I thought, this is so nice to have a finger touching my skin. This is not about sexual pleasure. This is about having physical contact, that he's having to hold the thingamajig there, which is taking a picture of the heart, which is showing on the thingamajig, right? So he has to hold it, and I am so aware of his finger against my flesh. I thought, isn't this lovely to feel a finger on my body? To feel a finger on my body. I never feel anything on my body. The only time I ever feel is my guinea pig when she licks me. She goes, my guinea pig licks me, and that's the only time. Another time when I get touched is when my guinea pig licks me. It's the only time I will get physically touched. And this is the reality of being single and alone. is the only way I'm going to get touched, if I'm not going for my V-scan, with my cardiologist, is my guinea pig will lick me like that. I can feel it, and it's lovely. It's the most beautiful feeling in the world. The first time I had a pet for a number of years. I got a rabbit, right, and I hadn't had a pet for many, many years, and I bought a rabbit, and she licked me, and do you know what happened? I just sat and cried. I was so moved to be touched. I hadn't been touched. Simply because a living creature was licking me, showing me affection. That's how bad it gets. To be sitting there crying, and I thought to myself, what a state I am in. To be in a state where I'm sobbing and crying because I'm just being licked by a rabbit. That's how deprived you can get as the long-term effects of singleness and being on your own, of having no affection, no physical contact. And that's the effect. And a lot of people say, well, that's sad, isn't it? Sad. It is sad. But I am not the only person. There will be thousands, hundreds of thousands of people around the world in exactly the same position. And the mad world we live in, you're surrounded with people fornicating, porn videos, everything in the media. And I have to buy a guinea pig to get me to lick me, like that, to give affection. And it does help. It means the world to me. It means the world to me. Or just a little paws on the little paws. You know, her nails. Her nails. Just a little paw of a guinea pig touching me. Nibbling at my neck. Nibbling at my neck. Just little guinea pig. Like that. It's wonderful. It's priceless. And so this is what it comes to. This is what it comes to. And if you're sitting there comfortably married, let me tell you, a comfortable single married woman, because so often these women are so bloody smug. Statistically, men die before women. And you could find yourself in my position, widowed, alone, having to get a little pet in order to be touched by a pet licking you or touching you. And it is very, very sad. It is very, very sad. And there's no magic answer for it. But I'm being honest here because I think it helps when you hear somebody say, well, that's exactly how I feel. She said exactly how I feel, or what I feel from time to time. And especially as a person who's coming out of Christianity, whereby the physical is like denied so much, whereby God is all you need, God is all you need. And I don't mean to be disrespectful or dishonouring to God, because I still believe in God. But I do say to God, I want to be held, God. I crave for a man. I do say this to God. There's nothing I want more than to be held by a man. I wish, and I cry and cry. Many times I cry to God and I say, I wish there was a man here in bed to cuddle me. I'm not ashamed of saying this to God. I wish there was a man I could cuddle and stroke, to stroke my hair and stroke his arm. And what would Christianity say to that? It'd be most uncomfortable. But God should be all you need. Well, I'm telling God, this is what I want, this is what I need, but but the reality is, because of all that I've said before, it's not going to happen. But I would love it to happen. I'm not saying things can't change, but I try to be a realist. And what I don't want is to be a burden on anybody. I wouldn't want to be a burden on any man in terms of my sickness, because I know how much I've deteriorated, I know how weak I am, and it's horrible when you have to live with somebody who is permanently unwell, who is permanently having to lie down, who's looking pale, I don't feel so good, and this and that, the other, and could you do this? And you're living with suffering, and I don't want to inflict that on anybody, and I don't want to stifle any man. I walk like a snail. A slug can walk faster than me sometimes, and I think I don't want to inflict that on anybody. And would a man want to walk as slow as a slug all the time? How frustrating that would be. To be, it's like being with your granny. What man wants, he doesn't want, I'm not his granny. He wants to be with a woman who can walk properly. Um, and this is not about me feeling sorry for myself. This is about me articulating what it's like, so that you who listens can say, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And it's normal and it's understandable, and there's no magic answer. There is no magic answer. And but there is comradeship in knowing that this human emotion and feelings that you're going through is common to other humans as well, and it's not bad, it's not sinful. It, and and I'm just thinking how damaging Christianity is, and how harmful it is, and how the false promises. And perhaps there were so many women out there, instead of people arranging marriages, or introductions for people to get. But all these women believe they're being called by God to be single. I mean, that's what I thought. I thought God, at some point, I thought God meant me to be single. And now I don't know. I still think possibly yes, but I don't. I'm very muddled up about that. You just don't know what to believe. I think my being single has developed me as a person in ways that possibly could not be developed if I'd been in a relationship. In other words, the singleness has developed me in leaps and bounds in so many ways, and that's been a good thing. However, if I had been in a relationship with a man, then I would have developed in different ways. But then I think to myself, well, I think I am freer in many respects than I would have been if I'd been with a man. I think I developed in the inner person more. So perhaps God may be thinking, I don't know God. I don't know all the things he's... I don't know what he's thinking all the time. I don't know. You try and work things out. Maybe God will look at me and say, you have developed in leaps and bounds by being on your own. If you'd been with a man, you wouldn't be the person you are today. And I like the person that I see today. And you've developed into that person you are today because you've been single. And I like the way I am today. I like who I am. And I can see how much I've achieved. But these achievements have come because I've been on my own. And it's unlikely it would have happened if I'd had somebody. I think I wouldn't have developed the same as a person. I don't think I would have challenged myself to things. I don't think I would have broadened my horizons. I think I would have been more limited. But because I've been on my own, and because I've had nobody's help, there's nobody to run, there's nobody, oh, would you mind doing this? Oh, get the husband to do that, get the partner to do that. There's nobody to cling to, there's nobody to call to. I have to deal with it. And so in a way, I'm very, very emancipated as a woman. I think on an emotional level, on so many levels, as a single woman, I am so emancipated. I am so free. But unfortunately, the cost has been that I haven't had intimacy with a man, even in terms of being stroked and kissed and cuddled or anything. However, I am on other levels emancipated and free. But there's a cost, and you can't have everything in life. You can't have everything in life. Um, and I am free, and I think this freedom is, and all that I've achieved, I'm very proud of. And I'm so glad I've achieved it, because I don't think I would have achieved it if I've always had men in my life. I think I would have been more subservient and much more needy, and I'm much more looking up to them and what do you think? What do you think? Whereas I'm not like that. I hope this, I'm sorry it's gone on so long for now, but I hope you found this helpful, and that you retweet it to somebody who you think might benefit from it. And thank you so much for listening.